Hello and welcome to Retro Reviews, my channel where I review my favorite retro video games of all time as well as some modern releases I have recently finished. And welcome to Smash Saturday, where I talk about all things Smash related until we get a new Smash game, whether it be Smash 6 or Smash Ultimate Deluxe. And today I wanted to make a rant here. The LumiRanks, if you're not familiar with competitive Smash, there's a ranking system that ranks the top 50 players in the world, and it's based on points, based on how big the tournaments are that they've won or participated in, their win record over certain like top 20, top 50 players, and they bring these all together and give you the top 10, top 50 players, and that's a really exciting thing at the end of every season. So they split 2024 into two halves. The first half they already did way back, obviously, and then they just released it for the second half of the year. And I was mostly on board with the top 50. I thought it was pretty good all the way up until the top 10. And then they debuted the top 10, and I got really pissed just looking at the graphics and looking at the players that won super major tournaments getting ranked much lower than I feel like they deserve. So I want to rant about that for today and just talk about why I think the LumiRank top 10, especially top 10 specifically, is just really bad, and that they should really figure out what they're doing moving forward, because I think that the ranking is kind of a joke. So first and foremost, let's go over the top 10 here. At number 1 we had Spargo, number 2 we had Mia, number 3 Aquila, number 4 was Light, number 5 was Sonics, number 6 was Raru, number 7 was Shuton, number 8 MKLeo, number 9 Ashimo, and number 10 Tweak. Now, I think I've made a point before that I am a Tweak fan. I have been a Tweak fan since Smash 4, so there is some bias here. I want to get that out of the way, but I want to talk about objectively why I think Tweak is ranked much lower than he should be, as well as Ashimo, as well as Hurt, who isn't even in the top 10, and I think he absolutely should be, and as well as Raru in some instances here. So let's break this down for a minute. A super major is designated as an S tier or above. They have different tiers. So they have the P tier, which is a premier tier, which is the biggest one, and it accounts for the most points by far. Like, if you participate in a P tier tournament, you get a high placement, you're going to get way more points than if you're even in an S plus or an S tier tournament, which I think is interesting in and of itself, because most P tiers, if not almost exclusively, happen in Japan. We don't have that many happen in the US, primarily because Japan has much better attendance, because things are closer together. They can have more tournaments. They have much more better attendance there. So there's not that many P tier tournaments in the US. So if you're in Japan, you have the advantage, especially if you're one of the top players, or if you're on the rise, you have a much better chance of getting into the rankings. I'm not gonna get really upset about that too much, but I do think that they need to reevaluate their point system, because like P tier, I think the ranking was like 9,000 points versus S plus was like 6,500, which is a huge disparity between the two, and having them be like pretty close together in terms of like attendance or in terms of top talent. I just feel like they value the P tier tournaments too much. I think if they bring them down more in line with the other like S plus and S tier tournaments, I think that would be a little bit better, but I'm not going to talk about that too much here. The P through S tier, the S to P, so the S to P range, there we go, are super majors, and everything below it is considered a major. So A plus and below is a major tournament, all the way down to, I think, B tier tournaments, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it doesn't go down to C's, I don't believe. Maybe they're included, but let's get that out of the way. The most important ones are your super majors, and 8 people won a super major in 2024 in that second half. Those people include Spargo and Mia, who won multiples. They were the only ones that won more than one. You had Aquila, you had Raru, you had Ashimo, you had Tweak, and you had Hurt. Let me make sure I got that right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 people, not 8, 7 people won super majors this year, and 6 of them are in the top 10, and 3 of them look pretty well placed. Let's talk about where I feel like this list did a very good job. Spargo being number 1 for the first time is a huge thing. Everyone's super excited about it. 100% deserved. He worked his butt off. He has been working his butt off, and he just kept winning over and over and over again. He won 2 P tier tournaments. Mia also won 2 P tiers, but he also had 4 first place at 3 A tier tournaments and 1 B tier tournament. His record against the top 20 players in the world is 30-12. And his record against the top 50 is 50-16. Monumental stats. Like, he was far and away the best person. Close behind him, though, like if there was going to be another frontrunner, it was Mia, a Game & Watch main from Japan. Also won 2 P-tier tournaments, got a 3 first place at an A+ tier, an A tier, and a B+ tier. His head-to-head record with the top 20 was 25-13. His top with the top 50 was 37-15. Also very commendable stats. Just barely getting edged out by Spargo there, but Spargo was the clear victor here, and I think those two at top 1 and 2, very obvious. I think they were easily the best players in the world. Spargo taking on the crown is really, really cool. I think Akala at number 3 is pretty good. He had 1 first place at a Supermajor, had 2 second places at 2 P-tier tournaments, 13-9 against the top 20, and 20-10 versus the top 50. So it's easily his worst season so far. He has been number 1 for quite a while now. I don't think he's been attending as much, and I think this is a case of the P-tier values being a little bit too high. I feel like Raru, who is the other one I wanted to talk about, he got 1 Supermajor win at a P-tier tournament, and he had a second place at an S tier, a first place at a A+, and 2 B+ victories. Way more victories than Akala, and I think more important victories as well. His head-to-head with the top 20 was 18-12, 37-22 with the top 50. And I feel like these wins, the point I want to make here that I'm driving at this point is that these tournament wins, these Supermajor wins, should be much more prestigious and more important in the rankings than anything else. I don't care nearly as much about who you beat in a tournament. If you won 1 set against the best player in the world, that's really cool. Did you win that tournament? No? Well, that's not nearly as important. But it seems like that is pretty highly ranked in a lot of things. And I'll talk about some other things I have an issue with. I feel like Raru could be the only other one that could be a case for above Akala at this point. And I would be, I personally, and I play Luigi, so there's a lot of bias inherent there, but I feel like his accomplishments this season should have warranted him at number 3, but he's at number 6 for some reason. The people ahead of him are Sonics at number 5 and Light at number 4. And I take big issue with this. Sonic's last season got like a billion second places at a bunch of P tiers, S tiers. Every single tournament he went to got second place. He was ranked number 3 in the world, and I thought that was too high. If you're not winning these tournaments, that's really cool that you're consistently getting top 2 at everything that you attend. I don't want to take away from that. I think top 5 is very feasible, but he was ranked above Tweak, who had beaten him multiple times that season to take S-tier tournaments or P-tier tournaments. And I just think it's really weird that he got ranked above Tweak for not winning as much as Tweak did. I was just really bugged by that. And this season is even worse. No first place. 0 first places at any majors this year. And number 5 in the world. His best was a 2nd and a 3rd at P-tiers. Another instance where I feel like the P-tier was way too high valued. 2nd and a 3rd place. Over other people that won super majors. I just feel like that's so stupid. His head-to-head record was 15-9 with the top 20, which is very, very good. Singular digits for losses, and 19-11 in the top 50. But again, 0, not even super major wins, no major wins this year. And he's top 5 in the world. I feel like that's just disgustingly stupid. Not to take anything away from Sonics as a player. He's clearly one of the best players in the world. But this season specifically, he should have been lower. He should have been top 10, but not nearly close to top 5. I feel like he should have been at the bottom, probably at number 10 or number 9. I feel like that would have been a much more better placement. But even worse than that is Light. Now, I'm not a huge Light fan. I don't want to take away anything from Light because he's insanely good. His head-to-head record is one of the best on this list. He has 18-13 against the top 20 and 32-16 against the top 15 or top 50, excuse me. He is very, very good at beating the best players in the world. I don't want to take away from that. But his wins are invitational wins, I think exclusively. His biggest one was an A+ tier, which was the Litvitational, which is an invitational. They said that they were going to make invitationals worth less points because they're fairly controversial. It's a 16-man tournament that's invitation only, or you can qualify for a couple spots. And they shouldn't be as big a deal as a huge bracket where you have to do multiple days of playing. I just feel like invitationals are really not nearly as impactful as other, and I feel like most people think that too. And they even said that they were going to scale those back. But Light's wins were at the Litvitational and at LACS Rivals, which I believe was another invitational, if I'm not mistaken. If I am mistaken, that was a B+ tournament. But if his 2 wins are in fact 2 invitationals, and he's number 4 in the world with 0 super major wins, I don't understand. Why are you number 4 in the world? It seems like there's some bias there. It seems like there's something afoot here, and I don't understand. It's either that they put way too much stock into invitational tournaments, or they care way too much about the record against top 20 and top 50 players. And again, I don't give a crap who you beat in tournament. I don't care if you've beaten Mia 4 times in the year. If you didn't win any super majors, if you didn't win any of those tournaments where you're beating him at, it doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything else. So number 4 is not only like way too high for Light, I don't even know if he should have been in the top 10. Because you have Hurt that won a super major, and he's not in the top 10. I just don't understand that. Maybe he had some really bad tournament where he got super low placement. That can maybe influence it. I understand that side of the fence here. But Light being this high, same thing with Sonics, is just stupid. Other people that did not quite win, I already talked about Raru and how I feel like he should have been number 3 or number 4 just behind Akala being at number 6. Number 6 is awesome. It's the best placement of Luigi by a long country mile, but I feel like he should have been much higher with a first place at a P tier, second place at an S tier, 3 first place victories at other majors. Just seems way better than almost anybody else that I've talked about so far. Shuton is another person. Shuton and Tweak are actually the only 2 players that have never not been top 10 in Ultimate's history, which is pretty darn cool. I feel like his accomplishments definitely weren't a top 10 placement this season too, but he has no super major wins. He had a first at an A tier victory. He's 7-13 against the top 20 and 27-16 against top 50. So his record is spottier against the top 20 players, but very good against top 50. And he's taken an A-tier tournament, which is pretty good, and it was not an invitational. So I want to give Shuton credit. I think he should have been a little bit lower. Same thing with MK Leo, though. His best placement was at a B-tier with a first place. That was his best first place finish. Other ones, I think what influenced his points being so high was a 5th place at a P-tier tournament in Japan. He did very well. He beat some of the top players there. But it's a 5th place. It's not even 2nd or 3rd. He's not on the podium there. And he is ranked at number 8, again above Ashimo and Tweak, who won super majors, and Hurt, for heaven's sake. His record against the top 50 was 8-12, pretty comparable to Shuton's, 13-14 against the top 50. Not a winning record on either fronts, no super major victories, but somehow he's top 8 in the world, again, probably because P tiers are valued so high. It just does not seem fair. If you just travel to Japan, you get 5th place at a tournament, that's more important and more impactful than a super major win. I just don't see it. It just does not make sense to me. Again, nothing taking away from MK Leo. I love the guy. I love the GOAT of Ultimate. I think he deserves his flowers. I'm happy he's back in the top 10 because last season was the first time he wasn't in the top 10. Happy to see him here. He just should have been lower. Because the next person is Ashimo, who had a first place at a super major and a 2nd place, I believe, at another S tier or was a P tier tournament. I believe it was a P tier tournament. He's 13-11 against the top 20 and 25-18 against the top 50. And he also beat Tweak using Ryu, which is a very hard matchup. I think he beat him more than once throughout the season. Really fantastic. Using a character that nobody else plays at that level, 100% deserves his flowers. He should have been number 5, and I think Tweak should have been number 6. With Hurt following closely behind at number 7. Again, these are the only people that won super majors this year, or this part of the year, the latter half of the season. I believe it was July 16th through the end of the year, or pretty close to the end of the year. So and Tweak, of course, my boy, number 10 in the world with a super major win, beating the likes of Sonics at Luminosity Makes Moves Miami. It's just mind-blowing to me. He has an S-tier victory, plenty of other really high placements as well. He's 11-13 against top 50, but 11-13 against top 20, 18-17 against top 50. Very consistent player across the board. This season was really good for him. He had that super major win and somehow ended up at number 10. When I saw him in the graphic, that's when I knew something was wrong. When he was the first player in the video, when I saw that his card was coming up, I knew something had gone awry, because I knew Light was in this and I knew Sonics were in this category, and neither of them had won super majors. And so I went through, I combed through everything, I dug out all the data here, and I just feel like this is wrong. It just doesn't make sense to me, and I don't understand what their rationale was here. I don't know why P tiers were valued so high, or why certain wins like invitationals were propped up so much when clearly they're not nearly as impactful as a full bracket with 1,000 people or hundreds of people. I just wanted to rant about this first. So if I was going to be doing my rankings here, I would personally have Spargo at number 1, me at number 2. Very easy. I would put Raru at number 3. I think his accomplishments outweigh Akala's by just a little bit. Akala at a close 4th. If you swap either of them, I think that's completely fine. Number 5 should have been Number 5 should have been Ashimo. Number 6 should have been Tweak. And number 7 should have been Hurt. We need all of our Supermajor winners in the top 10 at the very least, and they should all be close together because no one else won a Supermajor. After that, I think you probably put, probably Shuton, maybe Sonics, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, let's put Sonics at 7 because he did have a 2nd and 3rd at a P tier. That is still really important, very impactful. No first placements, and I know I harped on that quite a bit, but he did beat a ton of the best players in the world. He got very close to that podium. I feel like that is a really important thing. 7 or 8 maybe would have been really good. Maybe behind Shuton, who had a first place at an A tier, and then maybe MK Leo. I think Light should have been number 10 for sure, or even not even made top 10. Number 4 is the most egregious bullcrap I have ever seen in a rankings. I just cannot believe that ended up happening, especially over people that were much more dominant than him this season. Winning big tournaments, actually winning them, not just invitational. So I just want to rant about that. Let me know in the comment section down below if you're a competitive Smash player, if you follow the rankings, if you think this is as bad as I think it is, if you think that there's nothing wrong with it. I would love to know your input. Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.